Welcome to another episode of Metabolic Radio, the podcast dedicated to keeping you informed when it comes to everything fitness. My name is Taylor Rempe, and with the help of my co-host Shane Pace, we aim to expose the truths about the health and fitness industry. The information and suggestions provided on this podcast should not be considered as clinical or medical advice. Please consult with a physician before implementing any information provided on this podcast. Listen, if you want to get access to free exclusive training, nutrition, and supplementation advice from us, as well as advice on how to navigate the pitfalls of the fitness industry, be sure to head over to metabolicradio.com where you can subscribe to our email newsletter. And as a thank you for joining our community, we will send you a copy of our black book of exposed fitness truths, the 6 dirty little secrets that fitness companies don't want you to know, how they're taking advantage of you, and how it's costing you money. By signing up for our newsletter, you'll also be the first to know when we release new, high-quality content and programs, and you will be one of the first and few to receive exclusive subscriber offers before we release any new content to the public. Head over to metabolicradio.com to subscribe now. We will hope to see you there. Hey, everybody. If you're not yet a member of our online community, be sure to head over to facebook.com, search for Metabolic Radio Private Forum, and request to join the group. We have hundreds of people just like you who are getting great advice and support from our online community while also learning how to be more effective at reaching their fitness goals. And the forum is also a place where Shane and I distribute a lot of exclusive content and resources as well, so be sure to take advantage of that. Our forum is currently free to join, but that's not going to be the case for very much longer, so be sure to get in now while it's still free and open, as we will be charging for forum access in the near future. Head over to facebook.com and type in Metabolic Radio Private Forum and request to join the group. We look forward to seeing you there.
Welcome to another episode of Metabolic Radio, Fitness Exposed, with your hosts Taylor Rempe and Shane Pace.
I don't know if I'd call that metal.
You don't think that was metal?
No.
Dude, that was pretty metal.
No.
You didn't even listen to metal.
I used to.
No, not real metal. You listen to old metal, which is cool metal. I like metal. I like old metal. It's not real metal, though.
Oh, my gosh. All right. You need to stop.
It's not the abomination that new metal has evolved into. An abomination in a good way.
I will say to you, speed metal is as much as anything you've ever listened to, for sure.
Speed metal's okay.
So,
anyway, speaking of bad things, metal's not actually bad, but today wanted to talk about an experience.
Before you go into that, we're going to stay on that topic.
As you interrupt me.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. So you have the metal sound that you're looking for. Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden.
Yeah, no, that's a great song.
Is the voice
666, the number of the beast.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the song. I'm talking about the intro. That is the sound, and he's dead.
Okay.
He is no longer alive. Well, actually, no, he is. He's the lead singer. So I stand corrected.
But with the members of bands and whether they're alive or not, but I can appreciate the music.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the sound you're really looking for. If you want the metal sound, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd play a metal track for our listeners, but it would blow out their speakers, and they probably wouldn't listen to us again, and they'd think that I was a Satan worshiper.
And they would be close to true, but not quite.
I don't know. Not at all close.
Oh.
Well, so anyway, how to quit a bad habit.
Consider what we're talking about.
So anyway,
nice.
The reason I wanted to talk about this is because I feel like I had a personal experience in my past that people may be able to either relate to or find, an analogy to their own life with what they're struggling with. So many people that I've worked with and that have talked to me about, getting into shape or losing weight or building muscle or staying consistent, they continue to struggle because of the habits that they've set up for themselves. And habits are routines and behaviors that we go through that are either taught to us through modeling and conditioning, or we just form ourselves, and it's just habitual. We're habitual routine creatures because if we have a routine, then we have consistency, we have stability, we have control, and then we survive. And so we don't have all this volatility going on. And so that's why it's hard for us to break habits, because we find them as normal and routine. But as some of you know, and I think I've talked in past episodes, I used to smoke before I got into fitness, and I used to smoke a half pack of cigarettes a day. And the reason I quit had nothing to do with health. It just had everything to do with another goal that I had, and why that priority was more important to me than what I got from smoking. So what you have to realize is, whatever you're struggling with, whether it's sugar, whether it's consistency in going to the gym, whether it's finding a modality that is enjoyable for you to actually do exercise because you don't enjoy it, whether it's peer pressure, accountability, all these different things, whatever you're struggling with, once you establish your goal, that's just this arbitrary thing that you're trying to accomplish, okay? But why are you doing it? What's the point? What's the purpose? And is that powerful enough? Does it have staying power to keep you going? So many people, they set these arbitrary goals, like I want to be this weight, or I want to be this body fat percentage, or I want to lose fat, or I want to build muscle. And they don't really put reasons behind it. They don't put power and meaning and why behind what they're doing. And that's why they consistently fail, because even if they do establish a why, sometimes it's not something that's actually high enough priority for them, that they fall victim to their old habits or falling out of these new challenging habits sometimes. Shane,
you're gonna make me post something.
I'm gonna make you post something
right now. You're just it.
Do it. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. Okay. We can talk about what I was going to say, but
what are you going to say?
So, have you ever read the studies? Not the studies, the actual occurrences dealing with drugs specifically.
I haven't really looked at a lot of
breaking that. And breaking the habits in Portugal. So, it is not
drugs
the base
specifically. I'm curious.
All. So they were having. Portugal was one of the biggest drug-related.
Are you referring to prescription, countries. Or are you referring to recreationally used drugs?
Recreational.
Okay.
And not legal at the time.
Yeah.
And so they had to put it down in as quick as I can. Terminology. They had some experts come in to try and fix it with their country. And they said to do a radical concept, and the idea behind it. I've already posted something like this on the forum, but I think I may go into deeper stuff on this. They told them to legalize every drug, and so they did that, and then they focused all their money that they were going after.
Fighting drugs,
and they put it into building up the community.
This was Portugal. Is that what you said?
That's what I said.
Interesting.
Yep, and they ended up their drug levels down to nothing. Their death ratios based on drug overdoses is almost non-existent. They don't have a problem with drugs anymore because they caused what they did is they tried to get people to connect, and it corresponds, and this is where the people that were in talking to them about doing it, where they came up with their ideas, they did some studies with rats, and they gave them the capacity to take drugs, so that like the equivalent of taking massive amounts of cocaine and things like that, and be completely wasted all the time. They found that when they had rats that were kind of isolated, and they gave them the option, they wouldn't eat; they'd take drugs instead of eating. And all that kind of stuff. But they put them in a community type situation where they were with a bunch of other rats, and they didn't even touch it. They wanted nothing to do with the drugs. They didn't even touch them at all. Yep. That's where it all stemmed from. So,
That's interesting. The only issue I'd have with that is that though drugs form habits, certain drugs taken at certain levels will, and for certain lengths of time, will deplete the ability to produce specific neurotransmitters. And so it's
absolutely.
not just about habit and behavior modification. It's actually a biochemical imbalance that they will always have. And so they can't, that they will always, that's why they say, once an addict, always an addict kind of.
I'm not saying that what you're saying is not scientifically sound. I'm saying that the evidence that was done in that occurrence was that even people that were at that level stopped doing them.
Interesting. Because of community?
Yep.
Interesting.
Community and connection.
That's really cool.
So that's, in my opinion, that's one thing. If you really want to break a habit, and I'm sure you were going to touch on this anyway, but change your group.
Absolutely. Law of association. And I think, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but that's the people that you choose to put yourself around are who you become. Now, there may be some exceptions to this and that kind of thing, but the people that you choose to spend the majority of your time with, you're going to match them in terms of average income, in terms of personal outlook on life, in terms of often religious belief or spirituality or just philosophical beliefs and that kind of thing. Your attitude, your demeanor, your language, even how you pronounce words, that it's so heavily impacted by your environment, specifically your people that you put around you. So if you want to break a habit, put yourself around people that have either broken it and stayed consistently on that path, or people that don't even have that habit, that have other habits that are the antithesis of what you're trying to stop in your behavior or your lifestyle. So that perfect way to segue into it is, I tried to quit 4 times. And it failed dramatically every time because I was surrounded by smokers. Like probably 80% of the people that I hung out with at the time were smokers. So of course I couldn't quit. I didn't have the right community or support system that would help me facilitate that. And I also didn't have a reason why. I was doing it because I knew smoking was unhealthy. That's not a why. That's just a fact. Like, my why ended up being that I wanted to be an exceptional martial artist, and I saw smoking had started pulling my performance levels in that regard down. And so at the time, that was one of the few things I was actually passionate about and pursuing. And so I said, well, this is diminishing what I love, and I love training in martial arts more than I love the high of smoking. And then I quit cold turkey. It was easy as that. But I also removed myself from the environment of the people that I was around, and it became much easier to do. And so that's where I'm getting at with the why is if you're trying to accomplish these fitness goals, the goal itself really doesn't matter. What matters is the reason why you're doing it, and finding a powerful enough reason to keep you going in the when times get tough. So, there's a quote, and I think it goes something like this. Consistency is, what is it? Now I'm on the spot. I keep spacing out. But consistency is doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left you. Or commitment, or holding true to your word, or success is. Insert whatever, into that. But that's really the case. Like, of course, along your fitness transformation, you're going to have temptations. You're going to fall off the wagon, and you're going to doubt yourself, and you're going to hit bumps, and you're going to hit plateaus. But it's doing what you said you were going to do long after the mood you set that goal in has left you, because you're honoring your word. And the reason why you're doing it is still powerful enough to keep you going, even though you really kind of don't want to in that moment. And I struggle with that even to this day still. But my why is, and it's no longer just motivated by the martial arts thing. It's, I love the way fitness makes me feel. And so I just made a commitment to myself. I'm never going to stop working out. And I made that commitment to myself with such conviction. It was like, I just knew that was just a fact of my life now. And so even though I waver, I still remain consistent. So you got to figure out, what do you gain from there's a couple things. What do you gain from doing the new habit, right? And what do you gain from not engaging in that new habit? Because there is a gain both ways. Like, I could say, well, I'm not going to engage in that exercise program because I don't want to disappoint myself, because then I don't have to fail at it. If I don't engage in this, I'm safe. I don't run the risk of embarrassment. I don't draw attention to myself. I can keep pretending like everything's okay, even though, maybe it's really not. Like, there's a gain from doing the habit, and that's all the positive things, but there's also a gain from something you gain from not engaging in the activity that you want to do. And so you want to identify that. Like, what is that limiting factor that's keeping you from engaging in this new habit, because you're actually getting something out of it. Either things are easier for you, or you get to avoid something. You get to avoid pain and discomfort. If you can identify those things and ask if that's really that important to you, do some self-analysis, it'll actually really help in your process of deciding, what your reasons are for or for not doing something and engaging in a new habit.
Well, and that's partly why I go back to what I said about the legality of the drugs. It looks like I was actually mistaken on my understanding. It's not that they were illegal. They're not illegal. They're just like an extreme misdemeanor. But
so it's just not a major offense.
Yeah, they look at it as a medical issue, not a legal one. So, right.
Okay.
But even taking that into consideration, I think that connection is one of the things that drives people. And if you can connect, that's why I push the idea that if you want to change your habits, change your group, because that'll make it so that your habits will change along with it. It'll make the rotation natural. It won't be as much of a fight.
Oh yeah.
I've got trying to go back to the gym right now has been interesting, because my shoulder's finally to a point where it's not destroyed. And I'm actually nervous to go back because I don't want my shoulder to go bad. Mm-hmm. So I've been hinging on how I'm going to go back.
Have you dabbled around with the idea of getting a accountability partner in the gym?
Because that won't help me, not because of my circumstances, because of the shoulder injury is my issue. So,
but you don't think? Do you think being accountable to somebody else?
Not even slightly. Mm. The reason why is because
the community aspect doesn't work for you.
No, because it's related to my injury. So being accountable doesn't matter. I'd show up. I just wouldn't lift. Mm. But that's the whole thing. Is in my circumstances a little different, but that's because of the nature of it. I can tell. I mean, I've lost a lot of muscle. Mm-hmm. in the last 6 months now, and it's driving me crazy. But that being said, I just don't want my shoulder to go bad.
Well, so you that disuse is going to also cause it to deteriorate.
But I'm still using my shoulder. I know what you're saying, but the difference in my circumstances
maybe mobility
is unrelated. My mobility is amazing.
Yeah,
it was even with the injury. But
without progressing it, appropriately, obviously given the injury, at certain levels you have to progress it in order for it to get better beyond what current ranges of motion are and physical activity demand.
Well, like I said, I have full range of motion with my shoulder. I did even with the injury. It actually separates. My problem is I have hypermobility. Mm-hmm. And that's where the problem stems for me.
So you need more stability.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because of it, my joint will separate, and so it'll actually float. Mm-hmm. And that's why I have injuries that are perpetual, and I have for years. But for whatever reason, it's been increasing over the last fairly recent time period. But that being said, that's an unrelated thing with this. That's not even where I'm going with it. Mm. Do I think accountability partner, to go back to what you were talking about, is something that's intelligent to use? Absolutely. But in my circumstance, because of the way my mind works, I either do it or I don't. Mm-hmm. And where I'm at right now, I'm having a hard time going back for the simple fact that my injury's bugging. You know what I mean? So and until I can figure that out, it's been my biggest problem. It has very little to do with changing habits. So it's kind of unfair to bring that up in this topic, but that's the reason why mine's so much different. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. So we talked about people's whys. So what's their motive, the actual reason why they're doing things? What do they gain from doing it? What do they gain from not doing it? Not engaging in a new or not getting rid of an unhealthy habit, or not engaging in a new positive habit. Think about this too. What does it cost you? Because people don't think about that. We're naturally, the human mind, we're focused on right this moment, like just survival. Like, I'm going to eat that food because it's going to make me feel good, or I'm going to eat that food because I'm going to live, or I'm going to, just think about this stuff right in the immediate survival mindset. But what does it cost you in the long run? I always tell people, you're going to pay for your health no matter what. It really depends on, are you going to pay for it up front, or are you going to pay for it on the back end? Meaning, I choose to pay for my fitness and my health up front with paying for a gym membership, investing in education, investing in fitness equipment, investing my time into exercising and time into research and that kind of thing, and prevention techniques and money into blood work and that kind of thing to make sure I'm where I need to be, to prevent having to pay that money on the back end with prescription drugs and surgeries and physical therapy and rehab and all these things that a lot of people do that. So you're going to make that choice regardless, but what is it going to cost you in the end? And are you okay with that? And really, if you're okay with that, that's cool. That's your life. But if health is a priority to you, it shows that it's more affordable for you to do preventative care. It's more affordable. You spend less money on upfront preventative stuff than you do in the long run on just putting Band-Aids on things.
Right.
So you got to really think, what is it costing me to engage in this poor habit or to not engage in a positive, healthy habit? And am I okay with that? And that's that. Sometimes that you can have a heart with yourself that will really help you clarify, what's the next step you're going to take moving forward when you've had those conversations with yourself. Basically, you have to ask yourself, is it worth the cost? And
no, absolutely.
Your answer to that question will be self-evident. To be honest, so here's the thing. If I said, I want to quit smoking, or I want to lose weight, it's a priority for me. Here's the reasons why I'm doing it. Here's what I gained from ditching from ditching poor habits and gaining good habits. And I could answer all those questions exactly how I ought to answer them. But at the end of the day, if I still keep choosing to neglect my health or neglect the good habits and indulge in the negative habits, well, health and fitness just really isn't that big of a priority. Or you haven't found a more powerful enough reason why for you. If you keep doing it, you honestly are saying that I believe it's not worth it, or I mean that it's worth doing this thing.
Well, so Stephen Covey, who's actually passed away, but he wrote Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
He talks about paradigms,
and
a paradigm is just
shift,
a paradigm is just a map on how you see reality, if you will, and he
personal
compares
interpretation.
To an extent, yes. He it's kind of beyond that, but yeah. He takes the example of, if you have a map of Chicago and you go to Los Angeles, this concept that the map's perfectly fine, it just isn't right for the situation. And trying to find the right paradigm is what it comes down to. So when you're looking at changing habits, you've got to change your mindset. Yes. And if you can't change your mindset, you won't change your activities.
Yeah.
It just won't happen. So that's that. When people make decisions, they've got to internally decide to make that switch completely, and just do it no matter what it costs. And if they can't do that, then they haven't changed.
Yeah, and I mean, you see these fitness transformations, and the thing is, they're not fitness transformations. They're mindset transformations. their lifestyle transformations, their behavior transformations, their priority transformations. A lot of clients that I've worked with, and I've worked with some people for years, and sometimes they consistently try to take their life and just fit fitness in wherever they can, right? And they try to just do that. And they try to maintain, how much can I maintain of my current lifestyle and get the fitness benefits? And that's a really what's the word? It's kind of a smaller thinking paradigm, I guess, or perspective. It's how little fitness can I do to get the benefits, and really just kind of keep doing what I'm doing. And what you need to realize is that it's not about integrating fitness into your life. It's more about integrating your life into fitness. And that doesn't mean you have to be obsessed. It doesn't mean you have to become a trainer. It doesn't mean you have to be in the gym every single day of your life. But you got to change the way that you look at it. It's not just another thing you're adding into your life. You've got to really transform your life so that fitness and health and diet and recovery and those things are an integral part of the core of your life. And whatever the core of your life is now, if you're not happy with your health and fitness, it's not that. It's, you have some other things that make up the core of your life. And so that's why it's really hard for people, because it truly is. It's a life transformation. And that's why people struggle with it so much, because you're right, Shane, it has to be a full mindset paradigm shift. It's not just, I'm going to piece this in here and there and I'm going to see results,
Well, it's like taking diet as an example. So, people talk about diet plans and this, that, and the other. And the reality of life, we've talked about this more than once, but diet is a term talking about eating food. And so when somebody talks about dieting, it bothers me, because everybody's dieting. They just may not be consciously dieting, and they may not be deciding what they're choosing, to eat, other than by taste. But the reality is that's why when somebody starts talking about they're doing a diet plan,
everyone is.
They need to do. They have to do a lifestyle change. It comes down to that 100%.
Yeah.
It has very little to do with doing a quote unquote diet plan. It has to do with the fact that you have to choose to make your life, your choices with food become something that's important. Mm-hmm. And so, that's what I'm saying about controlling it and doing things like that. You've really got to have a mindset where you're looking at the health benefits and what it's going to do for you long lasting, or else it's not really going to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna invest time and money and energy and effort into something that's you're not going to sustain if you don't come at it from the right mindset and the right approach.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, let's just in review, because that's all mostly of what I have to say, unless you have anything else to add to it, is the way how you're going to quit a bad habit or how you're going to integrate a positive habit is you have to establish the reason why, and it has to be powerful enough that it keeps you consistent when the mood that you set your goal in has long since passed. You need to identify, what do you gain from doing the good habit and the bad habit? What do you gain from not engaging in the good habit or continuing to engage in the poor habit? What does it cost you in the short term and the long term? Or what do you gain in the short term? Or what do you gain in the long term? Just do this analysis. Is it worth the cost? And then if it is worth the cost, you keep the unhealthy habits, and it's fine. It's your life. But if it's not worth the cost, that's when you realize, you have this kind of awakening moment where you realize it's time to make a real transformational change. When you've truly gone through and delved deep inside your own mind with those types of probing questions, then I think everybody will come to a conclusion, whether that's to engage in a new positive healthy habit or to continue the lifestyle that they have. And that then just becomes a choice. And that's what everyone's faced with. And then I think that you brought up a really good point, Shane, about then once you're ready to take action, because this is like all contemplation phase, right? Once you're actually in the action phase and you're ready to start taking action, putting yourself in a community that supports and nurtures and guides and helps hold accountable you to, this new goal or lifestyle or path or way of thinking, that's super powerful too. I think that should definitely be a step that people take.
Absolutely.
And when you're feeling like you can't do it on your own, you can't even start on your own, that's the perfect time to implement that with a trainer or with a community or by attending class or by getting your spouse involved or your friends and family. You know, that's honestly, I had 2 clients recently voluntarily. I mean, we talked briefly about it, but I did not expect that they were going to do it. To be honest, they voluntarily posted their before pictures on Instagram and shared their beginning of their fitness transformation with the entire world on the internet. It's permanently there. And that takes courage. That takes so much courage. And they did that because they knew if they did that, they'd be held accountable. And you know what was interesting? They were met with 0 criticism, and they were only met with one client in particular was almost 50 comments of only positive feedback and positive support, and it ultimately helped that client's confidence, and now they have a greater sense of accountability for their program because people are watching.
No, I'll agree. The only problem I'm going to tell you, because you got to take this in consideration whenever you look at anything, the part of the community aspect of it, they're haters, and there's always going to be haters.
Oh,
and
yeah, there will be. Yeah.
And you'll find them eventually. And if it devastates you and destroys you, you've got to step back and you got to reevaluate it. You've got to think through to yourself if it's worth acknowledging that too. You know, that's why I think the whole idea of community, when I was talking about the stuff related to that, is such a big deal, is because people are the word is gregarious, which means they like to be in a group.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, when the group doesn't acknowledge them in any kind of light that they like or appreciate, they withdraw from it, and it actually is a very bad psychological side for them.
Because we're so in need of social acceptance
validation
as humans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is something that I've never really needed. And so that you know, the problem is, though, you've got to understand that's going to happen. And especially when you go something as big as when you bring up online stuff, if they hate, that's their problem.
Yeah.
Grasp onto the people that don't hate. Grasp onto the people who are saying move forward with stuff, because they're the ones that really, their opinion is going to help you. And the other people are just going to be detrimental. And so if you can ignore that and grab onto the people that are actually trying to assist, you're going to be able to overcome almost any challenge you want to overcome.
Yeah. There's a few reasons why people hate. And one is people get off to controversy. They like stirring the pot. They like seeing that they have power and ruffling people's feathers. And it's pleasure for them. So don't give them the pleasure of messing with you, because ultimately they're just playing a game. They don't really necessarily even mean what they're saying. They're just playing a game, and they want to see how you'll react. And others is when you show how you're trying to better yourself. It acts as a mirror, and it reflects on other people to show them what you're doing is also possible for them, yet they're not doing it. And so it hurts their ego. And so they become defensive because they know that they could be doing what you're doing, but they haven't initiated that, or maybe they don't have the discipline, or maybe they're not ready. And so they feel poorly about themselves. And so they sometimes lash out.
Right.
Haters is just having anger towards everyone reaching success. That's all it is. And you just need to disregard it. And what I do, I've had haters. I've gotten hate emails before. I've gotten messages that were really, hurtful. And you look at it, and I just say this, and I got this from Jim Rohn. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that they would respond that way? I wonder why they did that. Look at it objectively, not taking it personally, but man, what are they going through that caused them to want to say that? Or, just anything like that. But I just always say that whenever I find myself starting to get emotional about something that's completely arbitrary, I just say, isn't that interesting? And then I begin this kind of objective analytical thought process about it. And it really, for me, helps me totally dissolve the emotion around the situation and just move on. So
Right.
hopefully that'll help with some other people.
No, I agree.
Well, that's all I had to say about how to quit any bad habit and integrate a new one. What do you think, Shane? Got anything else you want to add?
No, I just figure I got to be quiet because where I'm at.
What do you
So-
mean? You're not having a party over there?
Plainly not. But anyway,
All right. Well, it's good to be back, people. Send us your questions. Let us know how we can help. More episodes to come. And we are planning a really good episode on a really interesting topic that's brought up a lot of recent controversy. So we are excited to release that soon. And if you like our podcast, just leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and join our forum so that your questions can be answered on the show. Just go to Facebook and type in Metabolic Radio Private Forum, and then request to be added to the group. We will add you and add you to the conversation and answer your questions on the show.
faux show.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Good night.
Yep. Peace.
Peace. Do you enjoy listening to the Metabolic Radio podcast every week? We do too. But in order for us to keep providing you with great content every week, we ask that you help us grow our community by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on the iTunes podcast store. It's easy. All you have to do is open up your iTunes store or podcasts app, search for Metabolic Radio in the store, and click on the ratings and reviews tab. There you can tell everyone else on iTunes what you love about listening to Metabolic Radio. These reviews help boost us in the rankings so we can help more people just like you. We appreciate everything that you do to help support us, so thank you for helping us share the love, and thanks for helping us spread the good word of fitness to the world. Hey everybody, thanks again so much for tuning into today's episode. Shane and I hope you learned something new and exciting today about your own health and fitness. Head over to metabolicradio.com. There you'll find our evidence-based and results-driven Atlas programs designed to help teach you everything you need to know when it comes to getting real permanent results. You can also sign up for our newsletter to get free exclusive content. To chat with Shane or myself, just email us at shane@metabolicradio.com or taylor@metabolicradio.com. We would love to hear from you. You can also join the conversation on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search for Metabolic Radio Private Forum. There you can request to join the group. We would love to add you to the conversation and answer your questions on the show. And hey, if you like our podcast, please help us grow our community by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. We would really appreciate your help. Thanks again so much for all your support and your listenership. Now go out there and spread the good word of fitness.